Now that we've had time to experience a more functional version of 2042, does mean we've had a better chance to focus on some of the gameplay mechanics. There are two aspects of the game right now which I feel are actually interrupting the flow and dynamics of any given round, outside the much discussed and well documented map design issues. Firstly, I want to look at flag cap times. With a significant influx of new and returning players and persistent matchmaking issues, it's quite easy to end up on lopsided teams at the moment. Typically, when your team is on the receiving end of a pasting and holding minimal flags and sectors, what you want to do is flank around. Try and get behind the enemy and try and cap some of their flags. This helps draw the enemy back when they're all up in your grill, provide a fresh spawn point for the rest of your team so they can reposition, and ultimately give your team a better chance to fight back and turn the game around. For new players to the franchise or people new to gaming, this is what we commonly refer to as PTFO, playing the f***ing objective. For other players who would throw their grandmother onto a landmine if it meant protecting their KD, it's still called playing the f***ing objective. So how about putting your big boy and big girl pants on and stepping up to the plate, you freakishly hairless, nappy-wearing apes? I mean, seriously, where do you... Anyway, I digress. Once you and hopefully at least one, if not all, of your squad mates help you push, you arrive to find a clear enemy flag, and then you wait some more. If you're lucky, no one from the opposition is paying any attention and you wait for the flag to neutralize, then capture. If you're not lucky though, the enemy has plenty of time to read the push, spawn back at the flag with an army of 300 pissed off Spartans, and pummel you into the ground. Not only have you tried playing the objective as the game demands, but you and your KD are now definitely being penalised for it. The issue exists on both 128 and 64 player maps. Just on 128 player lobbies, you literally have more people giving a much higher possibility that someone will read the push, come back and correctly and rightfully defend, and very likely en masse. This is part of the reason many 2042 players complain that as a solo player or a single squad, it is hard to make a difference to your team's fortunes and the outcome of the round, unless you're roaming the map dominating in an air vehicle, but that's another separate topic. The timings on average compared to previous battlefields are probably not that different, but this issue is exacerbated by continual niggles such as strangely small and sometimes exposed capture areas, lack of persistent lobbies, lack of persistent squads, ongoing hurdles to game chat, dominance of fast-moving high-powered vehicles, so on and so forth. On average, capturing an enemy uncontested flag takes approximately 30 seconds, seemingly irrespective of number of teammates and proximity to the flag. Things do, however, seem to accelerate if your entire 4-man squad is on the flag, which is a good mechanic, but only if you are always unable to communicate with your entire squad. Solo players be damned apparently. However, in other scenarios, and if you pay close attention to the footage, it can take roughly 30 seconds just to get halfway around to neutralising the flag here, probably because there's only 2 of us, proximity to the flag itself, it's on a 2-flag sector, or all or none of those, it's hard to say for sure. It is surprisingly difficult to find any specific documentation on this very integral mechanic. All of this makes it feel wildly inconsistent and strangely unrewarding to actually play the objective. Once you've done the actual hard part of getting behind enemy lines, you've then got to hope you can deal with the inevitable onslaught of enemies spawning back at the flag rather than having to traverse the map themselves. The inconsistent but often lengthy time it takes to cap a flag literally causes a roadblock in the flow and dynamics of a match. Which brings me to the second point, very specific to 2042, and that is the introduction of sectors. Much lauded and hyped during their pre-launch marketing, there seems to be little consideration now for how this overly influences the game. Rather than players on the field determining which objectives are best to hold and push during the natural ebb and flow of a match, you are now somewhat artificially nudged towards certain objectives. I'll come out and say it outright, I'd love to see how the map designs and gameplay would change if we had every flag as its own sector. With the launch of the newest map Exposure, it's been a fantastic opportunity to look at this in further detail. DICE were very proud to show off a heat map within the first week of Season 1, demonstrating how much players were enjoying the new map. Just to be clear, and not wanting to get drawn into questions of vehicle balancing, I think Exposure is a fantastic map, and with 2 good teams can lead to some fantastic battles. However, looking at the heat map from a slightly different perspective, I'd argue this highlights the flaw with sectors and flag distribution throughout the game at the moment. Capturing any sector with single, double or triple flags is always worth 10 enemy tickets. This then focuses attention on the single flag sectors, which will obviously be quicker, easier and less risky than double and triple flag sectors to cap. If you're lucky, this also coincides with the most fun areas to play as infantry as it does on the 128 map of Exposure, but it quite often doesn't. Stand up and take a bow, Hourglass Alpha sector. What the heat map shows is that the close quarters and vehicle protected Bravo, Charlie and Delta objectives here are very understandably popular. What it also shows though, which wasn't discussed at all, is that Alpha, Echo and Charlie are near criminally neglected. Understandably so too. Why focus on these too much when they are twice the risk, massively exposed to vehicles, literally twice as much effort, just for potentially the same reward as capping a single flag. The ticket burn value for each sector, I'm sure, plays a factor, but this is harder to quantify without clarification from the dev team. This also doesn't show that we've had games where the friendly team flat out refuses to push the middle flags on exposure once they've all been capped, because they don't want to be pushed through an infantry meat grinder with a lengthy cap time. They spend most of their time hovering around double flag sectors but not fully capping. In other words, in no man's land, not really contributing to their team other than trying to protect their own KD and background the vicious circle we go. There are many more heinous examples of how multi-flag sectors negatively influence the flow of the game. Many of the most popular, fun or strategically important objectives are effectively neutralized as a result. Think about alpha sectors on Breakaway, Kaleidoscope and Hourglass, just for a few clear examples. They create a suck rather than a frontline fight. To quote EA's very own official guide to playing 2042, the heart of Battlefield is team play that's focused on objectives. A team that strategizes and plays well together is more likely to be on the winning side. If everyone goes off to do their own thing, racking up kills without paying attention to objectives, they're more likely to lose ground and ultimately lose the match, no matter what the game mode. Quite a clear statement then that any experienced Battlefielder would likely more than agree with. To draw comparison to the old rival Call of Duty franchise, the focus on objectives and team play is one of the core differentiators. I play both franchises and enjoy both of them for very different reasons. Whether it's multiplayer or battle royale, Call of Duty very much pushes players to reach for personal glory and insane kill streaks. There is of course still an element of this in Battlefield 2, but by and large, if you're doing this at the expense of the team and not playing the objectives, you'd find it hard to gain prominence on the leaderboards. Nevertheless, we now have scoreboards regularly appearing like this, and this. I think the issues with flag cap times and sectors are just part of the puzzle of the game's identity and also enabling a new generation of players to truly understand what an objective-focused game can be. If objectives truly are at the heart of a Battlefield game, then players should be rewarded and enabled much more to influence a fight by playing the f***ing objective, as well as getting insane KDs. If we're just playing outright for kills and glory rather than fighting to win the battle together, I think many players will simply choose Call of Duty because Call of Duty does that style of game much better. With rumours abound that Infinity Ward have also invested much more focus on objective-based game modes for the upcoming Modern Warfare 2, we could be seeing a real paradigm shift in the FPS landscape. It's clear to me at least that the current and core development team at DICE are pouring their heart and soul into fixing the game and should be applauded for all the positive steps they've managed to take since the troubled launch. Whilst they are focused on fixing bugs and glitches, weapon and vehicle balancing and redesigning maps and specialists, they cannot afford to lose sight of the fact that they're fighting for the heart and soul of the franchise. Otherwise, someone is going to steal it right out from under their noses. And that would be a genuine loss to the entire gaming community. The clock is ticking, but let's continue to hope for better and see what lies in store for both franchises. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Until next time, be good to each other.